Good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Comic Crack. So we had a chat this afternoon, Rasa and myself. So go back and watch that if you're curious. It was on my channel this week. We're away next weekend, but we'll be back the weekend after that to talk some more books. It was good to kind of hang out. We haven't chatted for a few weeks. So it was good to kind of get together again. This was kind of a busier reading week for me. I haven't been reading a ton over the past few weeks, but I wanted to kind of do this wrap-up video, talk about a couple of books that I didn't really talk about in the stream. And we'll just start. Let's just jump into it. So I just finished Cyanide Swamp. This is from the Reptile House crew. Kind of magazine size. Their other anthology is, I don't know, it's sort of a square format of like a mini kind of zine type of size. Pardon me. It was kind of a no-brainer to pick this up. I really like the Reptile House stuff that I have. I'm missing a few issues, but I've got a good chunk of it. They're always really entertaining. There's always some great art. There's some great creators in there. Always interesting stories. I don't know the backstory to creating this Cyanide Swamp, this second anthology. There's a couple of artists that I've seen in Reptile House. You can get there's the table of contents there. Tia Roxy is someone who we've also seen a mini comic from as well. Nicole Rodriguez is someone who's appeared in quite a few of the Reptile House, including like the 3D issue. I think she did a cover of one of the issues as well too. I want to say this Pleatherface, this person that did Pleatherface, who was, or no, maybe that's the creator's name. Pleatherface for this Dark Urine was the name of the strip there. So I feel there's a few names that I recognize from the Reptile House crew. This is a really amazingly produced magazine here. It's really, really nice stuff. Not surprising. They do pretty high quality stuff all throughout. There's some killer stuff in here. So T Roxy starts us off, and it's a style that I haven't seen from her in the very little of her work that I've seen before. Kind of a horror element. Everyone remembers the day our son was replaced, and we could feel how much the new one hated us. The very next day, old lady Josie lit herself on fire while her husband was sleeping. He went right with her. And that sort of jumps off to, we get a look inside their house, and the children tumbled out onto the lawn. We were kind of horrified. The kids looked like neighborhood kids. So a real creepy kind of element to this one here would almost be good in Vacuum Decay. But a nice opening that sort of sets the tone. And then we lead into Christian Santiago with something called Swarm. I can't really make heads or tails of this, but goddamn, is this a beautiful, beautiful, I think it's a 4-pager with these giant, densely packed drawings on these pages. Amazing looking stuff. And you can see the title there, Swarm, tattooed around his eye, one of our characters' eyes there, our main character's eye. Love the look of that studded jacket there, but there's a lot of ink on that page, a lot of line work. Really, really like it. It's always the thing with some of these, even if there isn't a incredibly easy to decipher, I guess, story, you're seeing some beautiful pieces of art that sort of tell their own story. I feel like sometimes it's taken me a long time to get to this point, but I really feel lately like my viewing of this type of stuff has really gone through some changes. I'm really starting to let go of some of my older ideas that I maybe had about this kind of work, and I feel like I'm kind of enjoying it in a different way, and kind of even engaging with it in a different way than I had before, which is great. I still find myself hung up sometimes on, I want to get a story out of it. I want to get a beginning, a middle, and an end. I want to get what you're trying to communicate. I still get hung up on that stuff. Believe it or not. I mean, considering all the stuff that I've talked about on this channel over the years, it might be kind of hard to believe when I say this kind of stuff, but it is truthful. I'm being truthful that there's something different about the way I'm looking at this stuff. Scrapped Rats up next from Ella Bacher and Akiva Bacher. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Pretty kind of a more straight ahead story in this one. Rats in the dump, digging through our waste, creating stuff with our waste, including condoms over phones. And then at the end, we get some statistics. They call us vermin, pests, filth, the plague, disease. The true filth is Homo sapiens. So maybe a little heavy-handed as far as a message, I guess, going at the end there, but still an enjoyable strip. Some really nice looking art. I like this bold black lines for the garbage hill here. And then, like I said, we get some statistics at the bottom about the 10 billion condoms purchased every year globally, pile into landfills and take months to biodegrade. About shoes and about electronics and phones. And then we come to kind of the showstopper for me, Nicole Rodriguez. So much a showstopper that I went and found her online and just ordered a few books from her. I think three little mini comics. One, no, that was the other one. That was Julia. So yeah, I think I ordered 3 from her. I am so in love with what I'm going to call the kind of, and I don't mean this in a disrespecting way to the other artists who maybe sort of work in this style, but in the kind of David Enos type of style is what I see here. I really like this strip. I read it a couple of times. It kind of hangs on the side of being maybe a little more poetic. Again, it's images set to words, not necessarily a comic strip. There is a story being told with the images as well, but the text sort of floats around it. Very, very impressive. She's got quite a bit of work. Unfortunately, not a lot is in print. There was, I think, 4 other books that are no longer in print. I'm sure you can find them somewhere, but I wanted to order directly from her. So amazing. And one of them is a risograph zine, so in color, which I'm looking forward to seeing, and all a very similar style. This kind of panelless, borderless strip. Hello, Colin. How you doing? Yeah, it's a damn impressive one, Colin. It's worth checking out. I mean, especially if you're behind on the Reptile House zines themselves, it's worth going to the Reptile House page and ordering a bunch of stuff, including this. So that was the standout for me. Gabriel Mason Howell next with I think it's Taking Back Sunday. Starting off a love story of sorts of 2 people, and the text is a bit harder to read, but it says, have you ever been held by someone you love so much that you wish you could rip their skin open and crawl in to be closer? And we get that kind of feeling as their faces look like almost like they're one person there. Really great illustration, like the use of the full page on that one. Lyrics from a song being written onto the arm of one of them as they kind of profess their love for each other. Really great style as well. There's a couple of these ads that are thrown in. I missed the previous one. Let's go back to it. Gnome on the D-Range was an ad here. So these kind of gag ads. I think this is the same artist that did the one about the metal band that they did the one shot of. It wasn't called Black Sheep, was it? The heck was that one called? Anyway, it appeared in Reptile House, and then they went and had their own issue where they compiled all of the strips from Reptile House into one book. So I'm pretty sure this is the same artist here. Yeah, and then we get some swamp rats as well. So another ad. And then we get into Pleatherface with this dark urine story, which is very much looking like a Venom type of character here, with a gigantic ass. Gets bitten in the swamp by a crocodile, and the crocodile leads her out of the swamp and takes her to the Goodwill store. So maybe one of the less than serious stories in this one, but nice to look at regardless. What's up next here? Eden D. Frida Panoptico with a pretty, just a nice kind of concise short story. This main character going into the city and talking about how the city makes her paranoid. She doesn't like it at all, and kind of the effects of the city, constantly people watching you, constantly being monitored, with this great page here with all of the screens, and this skeleton kind of authority figure down below watching everybody. So a nice one there. And that's the beauty with some of this stuff. I really like this page too, actually, as kind of simplistic as it looks. Again, I'm not saying that this is possible to do by everybody, but I like that. With the one of the enjoyable things about some of this work is that kind of entry point. You feel a little closer to the work because you feel like you could draw something like this, even if you can't. It feels more kind of accessible as someone. And I think that kind of thought for me, I know I said that a few times, and giving that some extra thought, it feels like for me that brings you one step closer to that artist, where there's a different kind of relationship that you have with their work. Then you feel like you have a bit of a closer relationship with them. Whereas when I read other people, the Bill Sienkiewicz's, or insert name here of exceptional artist, Frank Brunner, whoever you want, there's that real distance of, this is someone that has skills that I just don't have. I can appreciate the skills. I can see what they're doing. I have no hope in hell of achieving that. So there's this real distance, whereas this just feels that much closer. This could be your neighbor. This could be, your child. So it kind of lends itself to being a little more personal for you. Pre-Genet with this last one called Foxhole. Yeah, Nick Bunch. I believe that's the same artist that's talking about the cover artist here, Nick Bunch, that did that book as well there. This one I'm going to have to read again. I found the text a little difficult to understand. I think we're looking at kind of a tour guide who gives tours to elderly people in the wilderness, and also lives there, and what happens when they engage with the wilderness, getting an animal who was caught in a trap, freeing an animal who was caught in a trap, and then following it through the forest. But this one definitely needs a reread. I found myself drifting a little bit and couldn't quite follow it. But again, this kind of style works for me quite a bit. So really great anthology, well worth your time. Like I said, everything Reptile House, I think, is absolutely worth your time. Let's go to the other one that I talked about this afternoon, but I just went and ordered 3 more books from her, 3 or 4 more books from her, 4 actually, just before the stream. So this is Julia Gafforer. Too Dark to See is what I have, and Palm Ash. So she also did a book. She also did a mini zine that is about self-publishing and creating your own zine without the use of a computer, which I'm looking forward to. Apparently they come in packs of 5, so I will have extras. If anybody's interested, Colin, I can absolutely send you one. I'll probably pack one up for Rasa, but if anybody's interested, when I get those in, I'll remind you again. And Maybe mail off a couple of copies if anybody wants to see one of them. So Too Dark to See, again, right in this world, right in the kind of Enos simpler type of line world here, but really kind of heavy subject matter. This one centers around a couple and just their relationship. It doesn't feel like it's the end of a relationship by any stretch. It feels like they're going through some struggles, and it's kind of manifesting itself on the page and manifesting itself in the book, and even manifesting itself in the space as they go to bed and they're visited by a shadow from the corner of their bedroom that comes to seduce the boyfriend in the middle of the night. And when they wake up the next morning, she asks him about the dreams he was having, because apparently he was jerking off in the middle of the night. He doesn't remember any of it. She thinks maybe it's a bit of a dream, and they kind of go about their day to meet back up at the end of their work day. He works from home as a writer. She works in a coffee shop. And when she comes home is when things kind of hit a little bit. You get a sense of how their relationship is currently. Childbirth is something they're thinking of, having children by the sounds of it. I get that impression, and it's not going so well, but they have this very, it's interesting as someone who, like all of us, have gotten in arguments with spouses over the years. This argument here is so kind of subdued, the way that it's presented. I don't know if that's because of the line work. I'm not sure what gives it that, but it really feels like the entire argument is being had at kind of a spoken voice level. There's nobody raising their voice. There's some emotion attached to it for sure, but it doesn't feel like it's out of control, which again leads me to believe that I don't think this is a vision of like an end of a relationship disintegrating. I just feel like this is one of those hurdles that happen in relationships inevitably, as he decides to leave for a bit and give her space. Amazing. Really, really well done. I won't show you any more pages. I won't show you the end. It'll be the same for the next book too. I won't show you the end because Julia has a way of kind of twisting this, changing the story, or presenting a part of the story that you didn't really see coming. This one was maybe a tiny bit more predictable than the next, than this Palm Ash, which we'll look at in a second. But I gave this one a reread before the stream as well. It feels like it's the kind of work that I would read multiple times to just kind of immerse yourself in and take a second look. Once you've kind of had that initial experience with a book, sometimes it's great to kind of revisit it. And with stuff that's kind of smaller like this, that's a lot easier to just sit and give it another flip through and another read. Palm Ash was the one, though, that kind of took me by surprise the most. I loved this one. I really enjoyed Too Dark to See, but this one had a completely different impact for me. I'm so very much looking forward to getting some more of her stuff to see what else. So this one, the basic premise is the Romans feeding Christians to lions, and kind of the relationship between these two Roman women whose job it is to kind of look after the prisoners to ensure that they're healthy enough to go out and get devoured by these lions, which we get a nice shot of in the first page here, the opening of the story. So there isn't much, and you get a sense of with the inside front cover. There's not much left to your imagination with this one. The story is fantastic, though. The two women have their different relationships. One has a relationship with one of the Roman guards. The other woman ends up having a relationship in a different sort of way with one of the Christians when she goes to him asking if he will baptize her son. Both the relationships end in a particular way. And again, this is a book that I won't show very much. Oh, look at this. Tony, Why Not Art? How are you, man? Nice to see you. This is one that I won't show you the end of because it goes in a direction that I was genuinely shocked by as I flipped the page and saw how this kind of all unfolded. So great. There's something also about the way that she writes the dialogue that seems very natural, no matter the scenario. I mean, we're dealing with two very different time periods and potentially different scenarios, even though they're both really about relationships. Yeah, I can show you that page. Both about relationships, but there's a really fantastic way that she writes the dialogue and just kind of moves the story. And like I said, page after page, beautiful, just beautiful art. I'm just going to say that. I won't even use any other word with it. It's just beautiful art. Very, very impressed. I did. Yes, I went right from her at Thuban Press here. Thorazos.net, I believe, was the address there, Gary. Hello, by the way. But yeah, directly from that site. And she had quite a lot still available, probably about 8 books. There was one called Visions, which I think has 4 different parts. I ordered the first volume of Visions, and then I ordered 3 other books. One of them, Dark Ages, I think is what it was called. I believe AFPC recommended it in the chat this afternoon. Then I ordered the 5-pack of Making a Zine, and then I can't remember the title of the 4th one that I ordered. So yeah, directly from her though. And I don't know if you were around this afternoon, Gary, but AFPC had told us that he saw Julia speak at New York Comic Symposium in person. I haven't looked yet on YouTube, but they're usually pretty good with archiving and filming that stuff. So maybe have a look on YouTube for her if you are curious. There's how you spell her last name there. If you are curious, I haven't checked, but I'm hopeful that that interview is up online as well too. Really great stuff. It's exciting. I said it this afternoon as well. It's just so exciting reading this kind of stuff and knowing that these kind of artists are out there and these writers and creators are out there for us to kind of just sit and enjoy. These last ones I won't talk about too much. Ghouls, Josh Simmons, I think there's only 3 of these. They're so much fun. Highly recommended. You can get these. Oh no, actually there's 3 plus there's an issue 0, I think, like for 50 cents or something. I think he might still have a copy or 2 at Domino. Well worth it if you're going to place an order. Just throw these ones in. They're not that expensive. I'll show it. I show it every single time, but my favorite strip out of all of them was this one, America's Got COVID. And this, our main character is running around looking for got COVID. Anybody got COVID? Licking toilet seats, drinking piss, just to get COVID. Fantastic, with a nice little great job at the end there. Hot COVID. I love Josh Simmons. Now that I've read a little more work past the Batman book, I want to read everything that Simmons has done. There's a very kind of bleak outlook from Simmons to some degree, and I, for one, can absolutely appreciate that. I think it's pretty fantastic, and he also has an amazing style as well too. It's that kind of set in the Adventure Time kind of world, but then taken to Johnny Ryan type levels with things there. So really great. So that's Ghouls number 3, and then there's Ghouls number 2, and just very small little books there. Looks like, were they $2? Oh yeah, $2 and $3, so $5 for the both of them. Finally sat down. So Hyper Mutt, I finally sat down and read Hyper Mutt. It is up to issue 5 now. 5 had come out this year. When did issue 4 come out? Doesn't say inside. I can't remember if issue 4 was this year as well. I like it. I understand. I would like to read. I desperately need that Fantagraphics, that Comics Journal Best of 2022, because I think this was one of the books that made that list, and I'm very, very curious to see what people said about it, that they felt it was elevated to kind of one of the best books of last year. I enjoyed it. There's some brilliant moments in it. I'll read it again. I read it this afternoon. I posted it on Twitter, but this page had me laugh out loud. These couple of panels here. Our two main characters kind of meet for the first time and go out on a pseudo date, getting to know each other. And when they're discovering kind of what each other does, he says to her, "My God, you're a celebrity." And she says, "Biogenetics Digest magazine called me the enfant terrible of big pharma." And then his response is, "Why, just last week, the Business Park shopper called my letter to the editor terribly infantile." I thought that was just fucking hilarious. Really, really great. Just this, little bit between these two getting to know each other. And of course, the very next panel is them getting married. So that was the deciding moment for them. So pretty great, really nice storytelling, really nice character design. But like I said, I'm very curious as to what people said about this, that they felt that it pushed it into one of the best reads of the year. And then, of course, at the back, we get the Hypermutt, the first look at the Hypermutt. It becomes a Hypernut and Hypermutt, another one of these books that kind of the story continues not only on the front cover, but also right to the back cover, issue to issue, making it one really kind of concise piece. I don't know. It's one of those that I haven't tried ever binding mini comics, but this is one that I wouldn't mind maybe trying my hand at, making a little a mini hardcover of all these when the whole series is done. I think would be kind of fun. So, and then this is Hypermutt issue number 4, Disruptor. So good stuff, worth a read. I'm just very curious to know more from people about what other people had to say about that one. Maybe something that I'm missing, which is extremely likely and possible. One that I kind of had high hopes for, that didn't quite deliver in the way that I thought. Boring ass auto bio trash volume 1. I love the art, and that's something that didn't change by the end of it. I love the art and I love the coloring, and I need to see so much more of this. Sorry, let me get the creator. So this Heather Louse, focus there. Yeah, there you go. Scratching her ass there. I want more of this kind of thing. Again, there's a lot of strips in here that don't really follow traditional cartoon layouts of panels and things like that. It feels very diary entry type of doodling, which I'm fine with all of those things. None of those things bother me. I think I was just expecting maybe more. Again, it's my craving for something that just satire, just my craving for something that's going to kind of poke fun at whatever the topic is. And we'll talk about that again when we look at You've Been Canceled. That doesn't quite deliver. So I had hopes from that title. It doesn't quite deliver in that way, but still really great to flip through. I mean, how can you not like these colors? Like drawing with Sharpie, coloring with a highlighter, putting it into this little book here. Really, really nice. It's nicely put together too. Some pretty heavy duty cover stock. By the way, I need to send you a copy of the new community sketch, but I'm still having an issue with Instagram. Maybe YouTube. Yeah, or you can send me an email there, Tony. I don't mind putting it in the chat because I've done it before. Just shoot me an email. Should I've typed that right, and I didn't even spell my own name right. There we go. Just mind the spelling of my first name. It's 1R, no A. And then just shoot me an email. I would love to see it. I hear someone I know might make an appearance in that community sketch. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I won't talk much about this. I did a video on this because I was so taken by it. This is the Floyd Tangeman comic. Death Dream, is that what it is? Distant Dream, sorry. Distant Dream. Floyd with his bonkers ass writing there for his lettering, rather. Love it. Just watch that video. I go through every single page of this because I love this. Floyd Tangeman is a hell of a guy. Another guy on that short list of kind of modern indie small press artists that I would love to have a piece of art from. A page. I would love a page from this book, as a matter of fact. For those of you who haven't seen that video, I'll show you the page that I really enjoyed. I just love the way this page is put together. For some time now, as he kind of shares his inner feelings, locked inside his house, his hand out the window, holding on to a piece of paper, which tells us the next kind of stage of this story here. I think that's a great page, but honestly, anything from Floyd I would love. And speaking of David Enos, I don't know if Colin is still here. I have heard radio silence from Enos when I contacted him on Instagram to see if he had any pages to sell. I don't know if you also have given it a shot or if you want to, but I haven't heard boo from Mr. Enos. You've been canceled. Issue number 1. This is from Mad Cave. They did the Don't Spit in the Wind comic that I think is up to issue 3 now. I think it's 3 issues out, which I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying, again, one of those books that I'm enjoying mainly for the art style. They had a sample of this as a backup in issue 2, I think. And I was pretty impressed, again, with the art from this book as well. The premise seemed like, who knows, it seemed interesting enough that it could go anywhere. The basic idea is, what year are we in here? We're in the future for sure. Los Angeles 2050, where cancel culture that everybody loves to talk about has reached such a height that once you are canceled, there's an assassin that comes out to kill you. It's televised. These assassins, of course, have their own kind of burdens. Our assassin here is a sex and drug addict. So eventually, not a spoiler, halfway through the book, it's announced that he has now been canceled. The hunter has become the hunted. Didn't see that coming. Such a shock, such a surprise. I just find it really lazy. I guess, again, another one. I was hoping for more. I was hoping for, where's the fucking writers with these premises, which I guess you could even argue that's very fear agent looking character there. I guess you could argue that maybe the premise isn't that engaging, but I like stuff that sort of looks like it's going to poke fun at some current nonsense. Whether you agree or disagree with it, I have mixed feelings about cancel culture myself, to say the least. But I was hoping that it would go a little further. I'm willing to give it a second chance with issue number 2. My hopes for it, though, have really just kind of crashed after reading this issue. But I get so few new comics that I don't mind giving it a shot. And I think I probably don't have a choice, because I think I ended up putting this on my pull list at 204 Comics. So there will be an issue 2 waiting for me, whether I want it or not. But I'll give it another shot and see how it goes. But it wasn't the most promising of starts there. I'm very curious about this Mad Cave, though. I know they've been around for a little bit. I'd like to see what else they've done. Why don't we do another one where I wasn't thrilled with the story at all, but the art was gorgeous. This is Andy and the Alien, put out by, what does that say? Bliss on Tap. From 2011, from the creators of God the Dyslexic Dog comes an extraterrestrial retelling of the classic Aesop's fable, Androcles and the Lion, created by Philip Phillipson and Brian Phillipson, art by the one and only Alex Nino. And that's what drew me to it. This was in a cheap bin. I don't remember how much it cost, $1, $2. I don't remember. It was cheap though. And once I saw his name, I was sold. He does the pencils and inks. He doesn't do the coloring. The coloring, there's two different colorists on this kind of, they divide the book in half kind of deal. I like the coloring in the first half a little more than the second half, only because I feel like his art style shifts throughout this book as well too. I follow Alex Nino on Instagram, and I've watched his stuff on YouTube as well. And I love watching him create a piece from scratch. These what look like just arbitrary lines, just directly on the page, no pencils that I've seen in the handful of videos that I've watched, and basically carves out a character on the page. And you really get that sense with a page like this. I think is gorgeous. I really, really like this a lot. Another guy that I've every once in a while, I'll look on his site to see what he's selling stuff for, with the idea in the back of my head that one day there's going to be something that I can maybe sort of afford, but that hasn't been the case yet. But I love his art. One of the greats. Here's another one too. And even the way his figures kind of stand and kind of hold together, like that's a kind of wonky, goofy looking character, but looks fantastic. Still looks solid, but still has kind of a fluidity. Again, this almost kind of graffiti-ish style, and I love kind of the sketchy look of the close-up of that face there. I think is really nice. This story is shit. The story is not interesting whatsoever. It was actually really rough to read. It took me kind of 3 sittings to sit and plow my way through. So if you find this in the uber cheap bin, absolutely grab it. Don't bother reading any of the text. Just flip through the pages. You'll get more than enough sense of the story that way. So then we get into a part where the coloring has even more of a pencil crayon type of texture to it for this last half. I'll see if I can find some. Well, here's some really good examples, actually. These buildings, if it'll focus there. Those buildings there have a real nice texture on them. And I think that works really well with his drawings. And again, another guy who more often than not isn't really using panels in kind of the traditional way at all. And the characters and everything just kind of mix on the pages and things just sort of flow. But it works very well. Let's see if I can find another. Here's another nice page there too from the second half of the book. Yeah, so there you go. Alex Nino, Andy and the Alien. And last but certainly not least for books, and then we'll look at, I'll give you a heads up on an album that's just come out or coming out. This is, wrong side, Orochi, book number 4 by Kazuo Umezu. I thought I had the first 3. I do not. I'm missing book number 3. Just wanted to double check in case I put it somewhere else. I don't have book 3, so this one came out. I had no idea it was coming out. We were at the bookstore looking for gifts for my wife. Her birthday's coming up, and as it probably is with a lot of you, I ended up floating over to where the comics were and the graphic novels, and this was on the shelf. I didn't see book 3 there. They had 2 and 4, so I'm hoping they can get in number 3 for me. First book I loved. The second book I had very mixed feelings of. This fourth book, the third one for me, I think I'm at a place where I just accept the things that I didn't like about book 2, and I'm just kind of soaking in the storytelling through the art, and I'm loving it, especially in the second story called Blood. There's only 2 stories in this one, Eyes and Blood. The first one is about a blind girl who sort of witnesses a murder in her house. She's waiting for her father to come home, She hears someone banging at the door, and it's someone running away, jumps into the room and says, please don't let anybody else in here. There's someone that's been chasing me. Don't let them in. Lock the doors. Don't answer the door. She ends up letting this guy in, and he walks over and stabs our man who's come in. This is the big bad right here. Realizes that she's blind, so just leaves her. Doesn't end up attacking her. He hasn't spoken. She doesn't know who he is. So he walks out. The father comes home. The police come, and the father gets framed for the murder. And the story sort of unfolds from there. Very much kind of like a Hitchcock type of suspense story. There's a really good, and where I really started to let things go was further on into the story, where she's very, very panicked. He's come back into her house to try to find, it's found out that he dropped his ID in her house. So he's come back while she's been out at the school for the blind to ransack the place and look for it. It actually isn't there. It got caught. It got set on fire and burnt to ashes. He doesn't know that. When she comes back and discovers that someone has been in the house and she assumes that it's him, she starts to kind of panic and look for hammer and nails so she can nail the doors and windows shut. And we start to transition into these black panels here before we get to this page, just with her and the sound effects. And we don't see much of anything else until finally it is revealed, and she's got bloody hands because she's hit herself with a hammer in kind of her just kind of frantic state. I thought that was a really nice moment, especially at this part of the story. I thought that worked really well. I won't show you anything else from that one. So that story was decent. Just some beautiful art. Even these passages here with the rain, I think are really well done. Beautiful textures on the ground there. My internet seems like it's struggling on my side. I hope the Wi-Fi is okay for you all. But it's the second story, Blood, where the graphic storytelling really started to open up for me. So previous story, we had a lot of pages with a lot of smaller panels. This one opens up with page after page of 1 and 2 panel pages. And it's incredible. This really caught my attention right from page 1. We have 2 main girls in this story, and one of them is kind of reliving memories of her time with her sister, like the fondest memories of time with her sister. And he does some really nice things with the pages. So we get beautiful stuff like this. And then it transitions to pages where he's starting to use some kind of some zips, some deleter screens, some screens is what I'm looking for with these designs on them, and incorporating that. It almost looks very collage-like on those. And then we also get, again, we're looking at children. These are 2 children having their memories of kind of fond times together. So we get these beautiful designs of like flowers and things around as they're walking together and spending time together. There's a moment here where, let's see, one time when we were having a picnic, I dropped the cake I was eating. My sister gave me hers. I loved my big sister. So she has such a good memory of that, and she remembers it mainly from the cakes. The fact that her sister gave her her cake. So that's kind of put in a spotlight there. Beautiful. And it starts to go downhill from there as we start to get a little more of a different insight into her childhood, where she's kind of consistently beaten because she's not as smart as her older sister. She's not as talented as her older sister. She's not as pretty as her older sister. She's not picking up things. She's not as good in school as her older sister. She can't play the piano like her older sister. So this kind of continual abuse and reminder that she's the shitty child. Basically, she doesn't have the talent, and why isn't she as good as her older sister? And this leads into their adult life. The surprise in this one is that Orochi sort of ends up being in the background of stuff. But in this one, she plays a major part in this story. So when we first get introduced to her in this story, we see the wind kind of blowing the curtains, and on the next page, she's there in the room, appearing from behind the curtains. So we also get a sense, I don't know what happened in book 3, obviously. We get more of a sense of who she is, and this kind of spirit that she is. She's awake for 100 years at a time before she's got to sleep for about, I don't know, 10 to 15 years, something like that. She has to kind of regenerate. And once she's done that, then she can kind of walk the earth for another 100 years, looking in on people. And she's probably watching you right now, is kind of the theme that they play with at the end, that she's over your shoulder, watching what you're doing, and telling the story to millions of readers across the world, basically. So I won't show you too much more of this story. I think this stuff is best read without knowing anything, and kind of letting the story unfold. But I really like this series. I'm glad that I picked this one up. I don't think there was ever any doubt, even with the kind of change in tone a little bit in issue number 2, because I really thought book 1 was a very, very strong read. So if you haven't read it, I'd say start at book 1, not because you need to for the stories themselves, but I just think that's best with something like this. Get into it right from the beginning and just kind of see it unfold naturally. Book 1 is still the strongest one, but this is a close second for sure. And hopefully I can get my hands on number 3. Anything else? I haven't finished this. This is Cowlick number 6. I'm hoping to read this week, and then I'll report back next weekend, if I'm around next weekend for this. One last thing. One of my all-time favorite bands. Where am I going here? I'm going over here. I'm going to present. This shocked me. The one time that bullshit Instagram ads actually did something for me was when it shared that Sacred Bones Records is putting out a brand new Khanate album. Khanate were an exceptional doom, slow motion, beyond slow motion band. This new album has 3 songs on it. I've listened to it already. Each of them are around 20 minutes long. Alan Dubin, who was in this band called Old Lady Drivers, which is a pretty bizarre out there band. Stephen O'Malley, who is one half of Sun. He is the, does he also partially own Southern Lord Records? Stephen O'Malley has been in a bunch of stuff. I was fortunate enough to see him when he came through Winnipeg a lifetime ago to present a piece for classical, for an orchestra that he had written. His first time doing it. As an extra bonus, he then played a solo drone show, which was phenomenal. I've seen him as a duo called KTL, and it took place at Victoriaville Festival, and we were in this kind of arena. I have never experienced bass frequencies like I did at that KTL. You could, for real, feel the bass frequency move up and down your body, from your head all the way to your toes. It was an incredible experience. Khanate were kind of born out of a band called Burning Witch, who took this idea of doom and slowing down time to beyond a snail's pace. Burning Witch was slow. Khanate is even slower and almost ambient at times. Apparently, they had a lot of issues recording their first albums due to the low bass frequencies. They had to get some special recording gear and kind of encase it in a box that was padded so it wouldn't kind of make the recording gear fail. So that's the story anyway. I never did get a chance to see them live. This one, as excited as I was about this, the best song on this one is the final one, To Be Cruel. I think is a fantastic piece. The thing with the band like this is there's only so much they can do with that formula. So it feels very the same as kind of the first albums. I would say the first self-titled album and their second one, which I'm forgetting the name right now, are the ones to pick up if you're curious about them or listen to online. But it's a very exciting day when Con8 is back, based out of New York. The other players are James Plotkin, bass guitar and synthesis, and then Tim Wasquita on drums. James Plotkin has been around all over the place. He did some really beautiful ambient records with Mick Harris. I think the album was called Collapse with Mick Harris. That's well worth listening to for kind of that 90s era ambient that was happening at the time. And Wasquita is a hell of a drummer, especially to play drums to something and keep tempo, something that is this fucking slow and heavy. So very exciting day. It said released May 19th, 2023. They have some limited edition albums. They've all sold out. So it doesn't feel like it's one I need to have on vinyl or anything, but I am curious to see if they tour. Here we go. Here's their album. So Things Viral. Here's their self-titled album. And then this Things Viral. I think these two are kind of the essential albums from all of these. Capture and Release and Clean Hands Go Foul. Like I said, it really felt kind of repetitive of this stuff, which I know is funny to say for something like doom metal. It's all very repetitive of everything, but these guys truly did do something a little different, and his anguished kind of vocals are gut-wrenching at times. So these are the two albums for sure. So there you go. Close this up. Yes, of course, Gary, anytime. I'm glad to see that you're going to track some of that stuff down. That's great. Enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. So that is it. 52 minutes. Holy shit. That's a long time to yap. Thanks very much for hanging out, everybody. It was good to see you. Tony, great to see you. I'll be looking for your email. Colin Blanchette, of course, always good to see you. Gary, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys probably next weekend, but if not, we'll be back the Sunday after that on Ross's channel for our kind of Sunday hangout. So we'll talk to you.